And welcome to DiceTillDawn and my review of First Martians Adventures on the Red Planet. I won't be showing you any overview of the gameplay or show you any of the rules because Rodney has done it on Watch It Played already, and you can watch that video or his gameplay video to see more of the gameplay because he does it better than me anyway. So I just want to talk about my thoughts of the game now that I've played through two of the single scenarios, part of the third one, and then through full campaign 1. And I will try to do 2 videos today. The first one is my general thoughts on the campaign with no spoilers, and then I will do a full spoiler video of the first campaign where I will go through every mission briefly now that I still remember it, and just give my thoughts on full spoiler alerts. But this video is no spoilers, hopefully, and the second video I will try to do today also. Anyway, what is First Martians? Well, this is basically Robinson Crusoe adventures on the cursed island, but it's now twisted to this futuristic world where people are going to Mars to colonize it for the first time. And it uses an app. You must have the app on either a Android, iOS, or phone or tablet, something like that, because it drives the event engine of the game. There are no event cards in the game, so you need the app. So that's one thing to remember. But yeah, let's start with an overview of the components. Of course, I have the pre-order, so I have the pre-washed miniatures, and the AOMs are tiles instead of cards, and these energy markers are these clear plastic, but pretty much I think most of the other things should be the same than all the retail copies, so no big changes there. Well, overall, I think the style is very cool. It's futuristic, but still kind of like clear and pretty simple futuristic, I think. I really like the dice. They are these transparent things, and also the worker pawns are transparent, but very similar otherwise from Robinson Crusoe, for example. I think the iconography in the game is very clear, at least clear, maybe even very clear, because there's not too much of it, and all of the icons are explained in this great player aid, which is at the... I'm not exactly sure if this is only in the pre-order, but it's in the back of the rulebook anyway. So all the icons are explained here, and the round summary on the other side. So very cool on that side, because there's a lot of rules going on in the game. Also the tiles, all of the point of interest tiles and the terrain tiles themselves are all cool and very good quality, thick tiles. And of course also the miniatures are nice to look at, even though they're only the 3, but still. And some negatives, I think. Well, one is the dice. Well, these dice are pretty okay. You can, if you have decent lighting, you can tell them apart pretty nicely. But these grey and brown dice, and sorry if you can hear the rain outside through, and my dog might get a bit worried if there's lightning, so if there's something weird happening, you'll know what it is. Anyway, the build and gather dice are too close to each other. Yeah, if you put them side by side in a very good light, you can tell them apart, but once they are in a lump somewhere on the table, for example, if you look at them, if you can see them here, they are a bit too close to each other. So I would have hoped these were a bit lighter, for example. But anyway, the dice otherwise are cool, but they are a bit too close to each other. But the biggest problem, I think, is, I'm not sure why this is, but these cards. Can you see the difference? If you just glance at them, you would believe that they are pretty much the same color. Again, if you really put your eye to it, and the icon is different, so but the icon is so blurred in the background that you can't really see it anyway. Of course, it says system block and living block, but if you have this a huge amount of color on a card, then why couldn't it be a bit more varied than the other one? Because they are on the side and you just quickly, and especially because they are referred to by color. So you have the yellow and the orange and the red. Of course they have the name also, but anyway, so it's just annoying. Not a big negative because I'd say you can't really tell them apart, but still annoying. Also, the other negative, I guess, is the rulebook is not the best. It's not horrible by any means because this is a very complex game, but I think it's more than that the app combined with the rulebook makes it somehow hard to look up information, because there is a FAQ on the app and FAQ on the rulebook, and sometimes there's the setup is on the app but some of it is on the rulebook, and it just makes this weird thing that where do I look for this information. And I think I would have liked a more approach, something like XCOM, the board game, where there's only one sheet of rules and all the other rules are in the app. But of course this is such a heavy game that it would have been hard to make that happen and all, but still I had quite a bit of issues with the rulebook and still do to this day. Every time I play a new scenario, usually one or two things come up that I have no idea how to resolve, and you can see the Board Game Geek rules section is pretty full of stuff. Still not horrible by any means, and mostly you can get by. Okay, but that's pretty much the components. And the theme. Let's go talk about the theme next. Well, the theme is just, I guess it's 2029 or something like that. And we are colonizing Mars for the first time. And so, does it feel like it? Well, yeah, in many cases. And especially the app is just great to convey the theme and really remember your events. If you have played Robinson Crusoe, you know that an event might be shuffled into the event deck and might come up later and do something. The same works here, and but the app can actually remember that information, and even better, in a campaign it can remember it maybe next scenario or even one scenario after that if it's something that would happen later on. So that is very cool. Also, the app just feels futuristic. You have the tablet beside your game board, and you have your quest list, and you can check things there, and all these things, and the logbook entries are just it almost feels like you are actually handling the app as a part of your game, not just that the app tells you things to do in the game. They feel very cool integrated, so I really like that. And I guess that's pretty much it. But there are some inconsistencies with the theme, such as the shutdowns, and you can't use stored energy if you are running out of energy you produce. Yeah, I guess there's many reasons for that, but it just feels weird, and some other things like that which are just a bit weird. All in all, great theme. Gameplay, and well, it's pretty rough to get this game going, especially if you haven't played Robinson Crusoe or games of this type and heaviness, because this is definitely medium heavy or heavy game even. But once you start to get a grasp of it, it gets easier. But still, as I said, there are always exceptions to exceptions to exceptions, which is the one reason I really like Euro games, because they are usually, once you know the rules, you never have to check the rulebook, and I love that in general in games. But I've spent like over an hour of our campaign looking up the rulebook and the app and a BGG rules section for clarifications, and still we did something wrong. So that's something I hate, but it's kind of a must-have in a game like this, because there's just so much going on. Okay, then, well, a great plus on the game is just very variable. There are 6 scenarios plus 2 campaigns in the game, so there are 5 scenario campaigns, so that's 16 scenarios in the game box itself, and I think they will be coming out with more, and they feel very different, totally different, and once you play one, you can only understand the basics, but the next scenario will throw you in for a loop of a different kind, and in each scenario you have a totally different objectives, and even the situation is totally different, and you aren't doing the same things at all almost, and that's just great. And I can easily see this being developed more and more scenarios, and hopefully more campaigns, because I absolutely love the campaign idea of this game. So maybe some few campaigns more. I would gladly pay $15-20, something like that, for a good campaign where maybe there's a scenario book and maybe some envelopes, because I didn't mention that, but there are closed envelopes in the game, and some of them are opened when the game tells you. I don't know when, but at some point. So that's a cool plus of the legacy aspect. And yeah, so scenarios and very varied. And but against there's and one more plus, where it's pretty quick to play the game once you learn it. So scenarios are pretty quick, especially with 2 players. I've only played it with with 1 and 2 players. So we played the campaign with my friend 2-player, and it was from 50 to 70 minutes per scenario or something like that. And in some of them we spent like 10 to 15 minutes looking up the rules things, but all in all around an hour for a scenario which feels very strong and long and thematic and heavy is just great. And some negatives is, well, again, you're not really sure what you can do by the rules and the rule book and all these things. So especially in the campaign you have some what ifs, and is this possible in the campaign or is this not? I guess that's just part of my problem also, because I'm too over analytic or something like that, but still I had some issues with that. But my bigger issue at the moment at least is that I think there are balancing issues with player numbers, player counts in the game, especially for example the guessing game scenario. I played it a 2-player, well, solo, but with 2 characters, and I basically both my astronauts died on the 3rd round, and I can honestly tell you that there wasn't much that I could have with it. During setup I lost 1 morale, which is 1 wound. There is not enough food in that scenario, so I'm going to starve anyway, and this is not the campaign, so hopefully you don't think this is a spoiler. Well, this spoils the scenario a little bit, but I'm not going to tell anything that happens in the scenario. And just random events which aren't in the part, just made me lose health in each event phase, and just couldn't get any food, and I just died pretty much without being able to do anything about it. So that was just because if you had 4 characters you would still only get 1 wound per round, and you could actually divide it amongst the group. But now I only had 2 characters to divide the wounds among, and just spiraled out of control very quickly, and I can actually really see it happen multiple times with only 2 characters. So that was part of the reason why we played the campaign with 4 characters with my friend. Well, anyway, that was pretty much it for the gameplay, and really like the game and really like the most of the things about it. It's without all these small things and a few bigger things, this could actually be a 10 or at least a 9.5 for me, but at this moment it's hanging somewhere between 8 and 9 as my ranking. But we'll see where it develops once I play it more and maybe play the second campaign. But now a quick overview of the campaign 1, the Labyrinth of the Night. And as I said, I won't spoil anything here. Hopefully I just gave you a basic idea of what I liked about it and is it worth playing or something like that. But I will try to be very careful not to spoil anything. Well, first of all we played with 2 players and 4 characters, so each were controlling 2. And well, first of all, campaign can be a really coherent and interesting story, and well, basically what you do really impacts the future. And I really like we played it actually in one setting almost. We played 4 scenarios in a row and then the last one next morning, so that was part of the cool aspect that we didn't have to gather anything up. We just were playing the same thing, and you can continue straight where you left off, and it really feels like you are playing the same game, but your objectives and things change during the campaign. And so you have to really, in the beginning, or during the whole campaign, you really have to think of the big picture and not just what's important now. You really have to take care of your astronauts and everything, and take care of your base and all the things that you can do in the game, because you have to survive or whatever it is and play. You have 5 scenarios, but you are usually have some like supplies that you now have. You may get more, but you don't know if you get more. So it's just you really have to balance your things and think about what you want to do and what is actually really important, depending on where you are at the moment and what you want to do. And you can really start to think in terms of, I am now in the boots of this astronaut, and what would he do? I think in a sense, and it's very cool. And again, the characters kind of develop their own identities, at least with us they did. And one guy was always messing things up and destroying all the machines he worked with, and our medic was always patching everything up and doing all kinds of morale lifting things, and we had some fun with that. And then I was playing one guy that we just named him Lieutenant, and he was like the commander, and there were some fun things with him. And our operator was just a by the book kind of girl and stuff like that. And it was just partly from what the app, what events came from the app, but partly we just started to play them like that, and then they developed because of the events and apps and what they did, and just was emergent storytelling, and I really like that. But then some negatives of the campaign. Well, sometimes again it's the same thing. It's a bit unclear on what you can do in the campaign, and we have some issues. And actually later on, I found out that I actually cheated on the campaign once. We would have probably kind of lost the campaign or something like that if we hadn't done this small cheat. But again, it wasn't clear, and there was one big problem. I won't talk about it more because there's a possibility of a spoiler, so I will talk about it in the spoiler section. But anyway, kind of a lockdown situation, and we just have to do something. And we didn't know we were cheating, but later Ignacy replied on BGG and confirmed that yeah, you can't do this thing. So that's kind of annoying. And well, the app has some issues, I think, because at least I didn't find any way to rewind it. For in one round, I accidentally pressed the wrong button and it skipped to the next round, but I couldn't go back to the last choice. Of course, that's kind of a you shouldn't be able to rewind it at all times, but still, we had to play another round because of that one misclick. And I guess there are some ways to replay missions, stuff like that, but still be careful with the app. Well, that's pretty much it for the campaign. I really liked it. It was close to being like perfect, but these few issues I had, I will talk about them more in the spoiler section. They just lowered it a bit, but all in all, it was a great experience, and I can highly recommend trying it. I think I'm going to try the one single scenario with my girlfriend and see if she likes the game, and then hopefully play the campaign 2 with her. And if we do, I'll do another spoiler review of the campaign 2, but that will probably be at least a week or few weeks ago, 3 weeks further on. But hopefully I can do that also. Anyway, all in all, a great game, and still got lots to do in the game. I think there are still 3 scenarios I haven't tried, plus the campaign 2, and all these things, and hopefully more scenarios will come, although 6 is very much because they are so different and probably very hard, some of them, so you can't beat them on your first try. Well, that was First Martians by Portal Games and designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek. Sorry, I can't pronounce that name. And thanks for watching, and see you on the campaign spoiler section if you want to. Bye.